Now, let's discuss what is classical organizational theory. Classical theory has its origin in the writing of Frederick Taylor, and the classical writers have viewed the organization as a machine and persons as different components of the machine. Organization is treated as a machine, and the efficiency of the organization can be increased by making its individual efficient in it. Now, by that idea, we see that organization is a machine that making an individual efficient so that an organization will increase their efficiency. Now, there are three contributors of classical theory. I have mentioned kanina na Frederick Taylor. Also, we have Henry Fayol and Max Weber. Now let's discuss the idea of Frederick Taylor, which is called the scientific management, in which it emphasized the application of scientific methods to enhance organizational efficiency and labor productivity. Also, he introduces the time and motion studies to identify most effective work processes. This was discussed already from our last meeting with Mom, in which time and motion studies is a procedures in which work tasks are broken down into simple component movements timed to develop a more efficient method for performing the task. Because according to Taylor, that manual worker are considered as stupid, slow, and unintelligible with little or no thinking abilities. That's why by this time and motion studies, the worker will become efficient because ibubroken down yung task into smaller components until mamamaster nito hanggang maging efficient na yung worker. Also, scientific management can be summarized in terms of four principles. Now, in relation to Frederick Taylor emphasized what is time and motion studies, I have here a example coming from the book. First is that management gathers data from the workers who are in the best position to understand their job duties and tasks. And after that, these data are analyzed and reduced to laws and rules which are applied. I-apply mo na sa mga workers' job in the form of detailed procedures and how-to explanation. Secondly, workers are selected carefully, or as Taylor put it, scientifically, and then trained so that they become more efficient than ever before. Third, scientific selection, data collection, and training are combined to enhance efficiency. Because Taylor argued that these processes must be brought together because science and workers are not a natural combination. Now, finally, the work itself is redistributed with management taking over tasks previously left to subordinates. Now, we see here an example of a time and motion studies. Now, I hope we're done and everyone understood what is scientific method proposed by Frederick Taylor in enhancing organizational efficiency and labor productivity. Yun yung way niya para maging efficient ang organization and also sa labor productivity, mas ma-enhance ang labor productivity. Now let's proceed on the second idea coming from Henry Fayol, in which he emphasizes already the administrative management, identifying the five key functions which are planning, organizing, commanding, coordinating, and controlling. Now, coming from Frederick Taylor, that it focuses on the scientific management to enhance organizational efficiency and labor productivity. Here in Henry Fayol, he identifies five key functions. in which he called this administrative management, in which it composed of planning, organizing, commanding, coordinating, and controlling. And aside from that, he emphasized also, or he proposed the idea of 14 principles of management, in which it provides guidelines on how to make an effective organizational processes. Now let's proceed on the third supporting study of classical organizational theory, which was created by Max Weber, and it is called bureaucracy. Bureaucracy is a rational and efficient organizational structure characterized by a clear hierarchy division of labor and formalized rules. Weber, okay. Weber called this idea division of labor called a division of labor was created by the idea of Weber that it is a simple approach in which employees are narrowly trained to do only the particular tasks and duties assigned to their jobs. Now, it was mentioned that one potential difficulty in bureaucracy involves the coordination of various tasks handled by employees. And bureaucracy tend to be top-down pyramidal organizations, everyday level of organizations. Employees report to a person one level up to the chain of command. Now we see here in bureaucracy in which it is a top-down pyramid, meaning um, it follows hierarchy in which these employees report to these people, the subordinates will report to their supervisors. And bureaucracy focus on the idea that each employees have will be trained by their tasks and duties or yung assigned na job sa kanila. Now, the good thing about this is you are expectant na yung taong yan, yung employee niyan is good for that. And then you would never have the problem na baka hindi siya efficient enough to do the task because you ensure na that specific employee is actually trained in their particular tasks and duties. Bureaucracy rely on the principle of delegation of authority, sabi ko nga kanina, an approach whereby supervisors, rather than trying to do everything themselves, assign particular tasks to separate employees and hold them responsible for completing these tasks. And ito yung nangyari sa meeting natin last time about the pinning na may mga specific assigned person tayo na our task to ensure kung ano yung mga pangangailangan, and then we have those subordinates or as members of the specific committee na mag-follow sa i-assign sa amin ng task leader namin. And by that, those are yung mga assigned leaders namin in our committees are called micromanagers, in which they try to take charge everything that goes on in the organization rather than holding employees responsible for individual tasks. Bureaucracy are characterized by a span of control. This feature, which is related to the chain of common idea, refers to the number of subordinates who report to a given supervisor. No, I have already the example na yung sa meeting natin sa PINING na we have all such committees, and then we have supervisors or those top leaders that we will report yung mga kailangan namin, dapat namin gawin. And after that, yung supervisors namin, yung magre-report naman sa higher level of manager namin or yung nasa mas naka-assign sa pining. So yun yung example. Now in workplace, we seen that it is common that those on higher position will command as subordinate people, yung mga employees nila to do their tasks as also it was commanded by the higher level manager. And yes. And those are the example or the three significant idea that make up the classical organizational theory. Now, despite of their historical significance, yung historical significance ng classical organizational theory, classical organizational theories have been criticized for their mechanistic and overly prescriptive nature, and many contemporary organizations have evolved beyond these principles, incorporating more flexible and human-centric approach to management. However, classical organization theory have become a basis and has a significant influence on the creation of other organizational management system. Now, throughout the discussions of classical organizational theory, we have seen that may kulang. One thing there is the human relation approach na nakikita natin that mostly the efficiency of a worker comes from order the order of the organization. So, paano nila magiging kung anong magagawa ng organization para yung employees maging efficient sa job nila. But then, there is no way na napag-usapan how the relationship of the employees and the organizations or kung organizations would probably improve or influence the organization, specifically the employees' efficiency or performance. Now, due to that, the creation of humanistic theory existed. Now, the human relation movement resulted in part from a reaction to the rigidity of classical organizational theory. Factors that were not even remotely associated with the classical approach to organizations, such as employees' motives, goals, and aspirations. Now, due to that, it was emphasized that those human relation movement are important. Now here, in humanistic theory, the relationship between supervisors and subordinate has been especially important in the humanistic theory of organization, which explains that organizational success in terms of employee motivation and the interpersonal relationship that emerge within the organization. The idea that what can an organization can do to increase a employee motivation and motivations and also goals and even ang interpersonal relationships that will probably increase the employee performance. And also here, sabi ko nga kanina, we will be discussing the X theory and the Y theory relationship created by Gregor. And here in X theory, it was discussed the influence of self-fulfilling prophecy, in where it focuses on the Hawthorne effect, in which kung ano yung expectation ng organization sa employees nila would probably fulfilled or it would probably happen to the employees. I have here a figure in which self-fulfilling theory X cycle. In where management assumes, sabi ko nga kanina, yung management assumes the worst of employees. And after that, management treats employees with rigid control and without respect. and employees respond negatively to shoddy treatment, and employees become what management assumed they were and act in accordance with those original inaccurate assumptions. So, yun yung epekto ng self-fulfilling prophecy. If the management assumes that the employees are not good enough, then probably the employees would think that way and will do their tasks in accordance on what the management expected them to do or may possess. So by that, we see that in humanistic theory, it also give emphasis on what are the possible consequences of management mistreatment of their employees. And hindi ka lang mag-focus sa how they will gain that efficiency in their task, but also you will also consider how the management expectations will probably influence their behavior. Now, the idea of Theory Y also emphasized management's responsibility for nurturing those qualities and providing employees with opportunities to develop their inherently positive characteristics in the workplace. Now, the Theory Y emphasizes on ano yung pwedeng gawin ng management to nurture yung qualities na meron ang mga employees and also provide opportunities that will make a positive characteristic in the workplace. So I have here an example. The theory X is the management is responsible for the economic well-being of the organization. Now, in theory Y, you will do something para mas ma-preserve to. The management is responsible for the economic well-being of the organization. The theory X, management of employees requires directing, controlling, motivating, and modifying their behavior to fit the needs of the organization. Now, in theory Y, employees have become passive and resistant only as a result of their experience in organizations. Now, we see that the relationship of X and Y will never be dismissed in this humanistic theory. Na more on, it focuses on how an organizations are actually affecting or influencing the employees' performance in the workplace. X and Y. Theory of Gregor. Now let's proceed on the open system approach. Now it's true that it's true that that it's important to recognize that organizations are not always well defined by the purposes for which they were developed. On the contrary, organizations develop and change over time as a result of both internal and external forces. And these are the basic premise of Coetzee and Kant's in open system theory of organizations. In where I have already discussed kanina that open system approach has three key elements. The idea of open system approach is that not any time yung organization has to follow a such ideas coming from a scientific management, mag-follow ng well-defined and mga well-defined approaches, but also we have this open system approach in where it opens on the possibilities, in where there are three key elements which are inputs, throughputs, and outputs. Inputs are transformed during the throughput stage into outputs, which in turns are brought back into the process as traditional inputs, and thus the process of continuous. Yung open system approach, it is true for those people na, example, yung mga farmers. They have the raw materials na like yung mga gulay, yung grains, yung rice. The rice processes. Then after that, katulad sa amin, we have farm. And then, pag ma-harvest namin yung yung grains, and then after that, we actually sometimes binebenta namin. And after that, magkakapera kami. And those money will be probably used again para makaplan kami again. And those are open system approach na it doesn't have to always that well-defined approach na dapat ganito yung gawin. But there are various things that will happen, especially in those organizations that or not really that have possess that kind of idea na dapat may may pagsasabihin ka nito, dapat ganito yung gawin mo, dapat ganito, ganito. Now, example of the cycle of open system approach is the raw materials. Then, the throughputs is the production of processes, and then yung output mo is yung product. Now, in human resources, the service processes, service, and then, here's the example. Now, mainly yung open system approach, nag-focus talaga siya sa idea na not all the time you will follow those thing because may mga organization na nasa small lang yung mga small businesses, yung small lang ng mga organizations na it doesn't have to follow that broader scope of approach in maintaining an organization. So, yes. That is the last example of organizational approach, which is the open system approach. Okay. If you have any questions, just message Mom Hamida. And yes, that's the end of my discussion. And actually, I have just focused on the concept or the idea of what is organizational theory, in which it originates from the classical organizational theory, and then it follows other organizational theories, which is the humanistic approach and the open system approach. The humanistic approach, mainly it focuses on the human relation approach. Kasi sa classical organizational approach, we see that how organization will mainly focus on anong dapat meron sa organization, that they may produce efficient workers, efficient employees, while neglecting the fact that employees maybe have that difficulties of attaining those efficiency due to the organization's way of dealing. And then we have also the open system approach. This is true because sometimes organizations are not that very rigid in knowing very rigid in following well-defined, structured in maintaining an organization. They are very, it depends on them what yung ano yung kaya, anong pwede sa resources, then they will do, and we will do something on that, and then we'll transform it in a way na the employees and the organizations will benefit. So that's it. That's the end of my report. Hope you guys learned, and if you have any questions, just message Ma'am Nur Hamida, and later on I will be also posting my PPTs so that you may able to upload it. So that's it, guys. Thank you for listening and watching. Thank you for your time too.